Product provided by Nintendo, specifically Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition. Well, I've got some bad news for you all today. Either our dreams of Xenoblade on PC have just been dashed and burned, rubbing salt in the wound, or we've only just begun. Let's get into it, let's talk about it. Hello everyone, I am Jmulls, and I have an update from yesterday's video concerning the possibility that Xenoblade Chronicles X might find its way to PC. Let me give you a brief recap of what happened. So, Microsoft has this new little doodad, a feature called Microsoft Edge Game Assist. Essentially, for PC games, specifically PC games, you can hit the Windows key and the G button, and it will allow you to overlay a web browser on top of your game, so that you can watch a guide, read a guide, or whatever, all while you are playing a game. Seems to be designed for one monitor setup, because if you have two monitors, you would never use this, at least like 99.9% of the time. But they have an article on the Microsoft website about enhanced games for Microsoft Edge Game Assist. And if you looked over the weekend, at the very bottom of that list, Xenoblade Chronicles X was there. However, as of Monday morning, June 2nd, that entry has been deleted. That is the update. They removed Xenoblade Chronicles X from this website. Now, the natural knee-jerk reaction, rightfully so, is that, oh, it was probably just a mistype or mistake, AI had another blunder, that wouldn't be new, and they just didn't edit it over the weekend because it's the weekend, and when they got back into the office Monday morning, they just edited the webpage to remove the mistake. That makes a lot of sense, and in all likelihood, that is what happened here. Perhaps they used AI to create the article originally, or the person who wrote it was just like 20 coffees deep and let their internal thoughts leak out. We don't know, they could have also just decided to personally screw with me, because my favorite IP in all of gaming is Xenoblade Chronicles, and I'm also a PC gamer. Now, for a lot of people, this will dash any possible hope that Xenoblade Chronicles would go from being a Nintendo exclusive title, specifically Xenoblade Chronicles X here, because the title of the game listed on the webpage, at least when I saw it, was Xenoblade Chronicles X, not Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition, though I have heard conflicting reports from random people on Twitter and in my comments that there was a point before I started to follow this where the website did read Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition and was later updated. I don't know if that's true, it's just interesting to think about. Xenoblade Chronicles coming to PC was unlikely more than it was likely because, well, it's Nintendo. They're not particularly known for porting their games and their IP to other platforms, let alone PC gaming. So I can completely understand why a lot of people would look at this change on the website, where they just remove Xenoblade Chronicles X, and go, oh, it was just a mistake, we can go on about our day, nothing to really write home about here. And I can completely understand why people would be of that mindset, because it makes the most sense right now. However, let's rub those few dusty brain cells in our heads a little bit more, and see what copium can we extract from this grim situation. Let's talk about it. First off, all the points I made in yesterday's video largely still stand. Nintendo is a company. They are going to want to make money, and they're going to want to make even more money than they currently have. Nintendo is on the cusp of a new generation for their console with the Switch 2. If you're going to make a seismic business strategy change, now would be the time. And if there's any IP that Nintendo have that could work on PC, then Xenoblade Chronicles, in my opinion, is the IP best positioned to be able to serve in this role. It's not the only one. You could also argue Fire Emblem or Metroid, but I think of all the games that Nintendo have under their umbrella, Xenoblade Chronicles makes the most sense to me. It's not the most popular, it's a rather niche JRPG, however the control scheme would work beautifully on PC with mouse and keyboard because of the way arts are set up in combat. It's also a style of game, that being an open-world RPG not named Zelda, that tend to thrive on PC, or at least can make a name and a home for themselves. Xenoblade Chronicles X is also a rather unique game, being a sci-fi open-world RPG. We don't see particularly many of those, let alone good ones. And while the combat of Xenoblade Chronicles can be rather polarizing at the best of times, I think Xenoblade Chronicles X is overall an extremely well-constructed game. And if Nintendo wants to signal boost to grow Xenoblade Chronicles as an IP and get it more recognition and spotlight, having it be the first title possibly brought to PC as a platform would get all eyes squarely focused focused on Xenoblade Chronicles being able to leverage the popularity of Nintendo as a brand for Xenoblade, because in this hypothetical situation, it would be the first, and at the time only, title being ported to PC, assuming there's a marketing campaign for this. But if this is the case, then why would you remove it from the Game Assist page on the Microsoft website to begin with? Well, I think the better answer is, or better response, why was it there to begin with? It hasn't been announced yet, if it's actually a thing. And assuming it is a thing, there's two possibilities here. Either it wasn't supposed to be put on the website yet, or this was part of a unique marketing strategy meant to create conversation surrounding this, so that when it's later revealed, there's already some conversation going about it. It does sound pretty conspiratorial, but, I mean, we're grasping at straws here in the best of circumstances, let me have this. Could also be that, well, AI was utilized to create this article, had access to information it wasn't supposed to make public yet. That any number of clerical issues could have happened behind the scenes that led to this happening. We don't know. However, the timing is still weird, and I hold to this that I talked about yesterday. The fact that we have the Game Awards on June 6th, and we also have the Xbox Game Showcase on June 8th. That's not that far away, alongside a new console release for Nintendo this week. A lot is kind of lining up. But even if it doesn't get announced this week, if it ever gets announced, doesn't mean they have to announce it right now. They could wait a while, month, 6 months, a year, who knows? And look, I completely understand why people would be massively pessimistic about this actually happening, because I also am pessimistic. I do not think it's highly likely at all. However, what I'm just saying is that the possibility of it happening isn't 0%, because there is some logic for Nintendo at least experimenting with putting Xenoblade of all titles on PC as a platform. With how important Monolith are as developers for Nintendo, you would want their baby, naturally, to become more and more popular. It has an extremely cult following, but a cult following nonetheless. And you still want to create an ecosystem, at least Nintendo would, to lock people into the Nintendo ecosystem, right? So you would want to have an expansive list of exclusives locked down so people feel incentivized to get a Switch and to get a Switch too. And while Xenoblade Chronicles as an IP would be a console seller for at least me, and imagine quite a few other people who love Xenoblade Chronicles, it doesn't have the IP recognition or familiarity of something like a Mario or Zelda. It's just not on that level yet. So I think it could make a lot of sense if Nintendo wanted to experiment with just seeing how things sell and work on PC as a platform, a market that is generally pretty different and distinct to what Nintendo targets. A title like Xenoblade Chronicles, in a lot of ways, is best positioned to act as a litmus test for Nintendo to find out how it would work and how it would possibly succeed. Chances are you're not going to lose out on any console sales, or at least much, by porting a singular Xenoblade Chronicles title to PC. Xenoblade Chronicles as an IP largely would work on PC, especially Xenoblade Chronicles X, because of the control scheme of Xenoblade Chronicles just working with mouse and keyboard because of the art hotbar at the very bottom of the screen. And this wouldn't entirely be unprecedented. We have seen Sony over the last few years snuggle up to PC as a platform more and more. They were once a company where it was thought to be impossible to even consider the notion they would ever port their games to PC en masse. But look at them now. Sure, they come out on console first, but down the line, unless your name is Bloodborne, chances are you're coming to PC if you're a PlayStation game. The market is evolving, and PC is a massive, massive, massive market in gaming. Companies would probably want to find some way to monetize that market. It's why Nintendo has made mobile games in the past. And sure, mobile is a much bigger sector than, say, PC gaming or any other sector, but I think the overall logic could still apply. So while I'll completely understand why people will think this is just completely a done deal, it's not happening, it's over, move on about your freaking day, I don't think the door is completely closed. It's just in the process of closing. And while Xenoblade Chronicles X fighting its way onto that Microsoft Game Assist page was never a surefire bet, it was never a hard confirmation that Xenoblade Chronicles was coming to PC to begin with, it does raise some interesting questions. Because I think it's one of those situations where, while we are living it in the moment, it makes complete sense to say that this isn't happening. But if it does end up happening, there's quite a few things that fall into place and make a lot of sense in hindsight. I would like to see Xenoblade Chronicles on PC, because, well, I'm a PC gamer first and foremost, and I also love Xenoblade Chronicles, and I would love to see Xenoblade take advantage of how powerful my PC is. But also the modding scene. Yeah, I know, with Nintendo that's kind of laughable. But, can you imagine how fun the modding scene for this game could be? Even further scale customization, swapping appearances, and stuff like that. I love Xenoblade Chronicles as an IP, and I want to see more and more people play and experience Xenoblade Chronicles and have access to Xenoblade Chronicles. I want to see this IP grow. I don't need it to ever be as popular as like Zelda or Mario. I at least want the perceived popularity of this series to be in line with the quality that I know this series has. It'll be interesting to see what happens. I highly doubt it ever being added to the Microsoft webpage was deliberate, unless those claims of them editing from Xenoblade Chronicles X Definitive Edition to just Xenoblade Chronicles X are true, because if that's the case, that's a weird edit to make instead of just deleting it. But we'll see. Leave a comment down below with, do you think this was all just a nothing burger? Do you think there's something deeper going on? Would you even like to see Xenoblade Chronicles come to other platforms? I am not a fan of exclusivity. It's a necessary evil sometimes, and Xenoblade Chronicles wouldn't exist without it to begin with. However, when possible, I will always advocate for games coming to multiple different platforms, because I don't see the logic in advocating that people who bought a different plastic box than you should not be allowed to play a video game, or at least buy a video game. I'd love to hear your thoughts and hear your opinions and hear your perspectives, though. Stay safe, have a great day, leave a like and subscribe, I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody, until we meet again!